All right. Well, hello, guys. Welcome back to the show. This is Into the Woods, and I'm Dwayne.
I'm Denise.
And this is Danita.
We are so happy that you can join us tonight, and we've got a, we've got a doozy of a show tonight because you're gonna get a front seat look at a disagreement that we had together, and we're gonna see how we kind of walk through this together. This happened just within the last week, so we thought we would come and share with you what we are learning. So notice they say this is like fresh, right? This is like new.
Brand new.
So brand new. So we thought we'd share it with you as we walk through it together. And really, we're talking about conflict, how to deal with conflict, how to resolve conflicts, and how do we talk with each other. If you've not already done so, we would love for you to go and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you will be notified when we do put new shows up. Give us a thumbs up on this if you're watching this right now, and share it with your family and friends, and come on back for our future shows. Also, let us know either in the email intothewoods@gmail.com, into the woods at gmail.com is our email. And then you can also drop it into the comments if there are topics that you would like us to cover, or even as you're listening to the things that we are talking about, if you have comments about it. And if you've had any experiences, we'd love to hear that, so that we can respond, and then we can share it with the rest of the community, because we are trying to grow a community. Our goal, right, Into the Woods. So as we talk, as we discuss, as you see us, we are all in some woods, right? Some bushes somewhere. And as we understand life, as we understand each other, we can all come out of the woods. Anyway, so with that long introduction, hey guys, how are you doing today or tonight?
Good.
How was the week?
It was okay. Had a lot of PDs, professional development,
Mm-hmm.
but it was okay. It's okay. School's about to close on the 27th, and so
Ooh,
we're wrapping up a lot of things.
love it, love it. Wow. Yeah, so school.
Yeah.
And how about you, Danita?
It was a quiet week. I played hooky for 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. I did not go to work. It was the
Mm-hmm.
most fabulous thing ever. And then I had a 3 day work week. So, I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that.
I know. Wow, wow. Yeah. Well, good, good. I had a pretty good week. Blake's out of school, so this was kind of a in between week. He's got some camps that are coming up. We've got a birthday that's coming up. He's turning 13. Can you believe that?
Yes.
And then we have an anniversary coming up here in a couple of weeks. So June is a good month,
Month.
and this week was great for us. The office went well and all of that stuff. So cool. All right.
Nice.
So conflict. So before we even get into talking about how to do conflict and resolution and all that, what is conflict? Why don't we share with our folks what happened? And we don't have to tell all the details, but just kind of an overview. And Denise, I'm going to let you be the one that shares. Don't you tell everybody what happened? What happened?
Okay, so well, people, last week, my sister Danita, right there, over there, she wasn't able to come on. And so she notified all of us that she was not going to be on. And so everyone said, okay, no problem, thumbs up. And so I came on, on Friday, waiting for, my brother Dwayne to show up. And I'm sitting there like for 15 minutes, like, well, okay, nobody's here. But I know previously when I'm not around, they meet up. And so why is he not showing up now? So I got into my feelings and I sent an email. I'm like, you know what? You guys go ahead and do what you do. I'll be a guest speaker. Imagine me being a guest speaker, right? And so that was the conflict. That was the start of the conflict. So I'll let Dwayne pick it up from there.
Okay, yeah. So that was the start of the conflict. So Danita was notified us that she would be out, and then Denise and I were supposed to meet up to tape the last episode, and I didn't show up, at the appointed time. And so because I was asleep, I was tired. And
Galaxy.
so I woke up and I was like, oh my God. I think I woke up like 25 minutes after we were supposed to meet. And I saw a message that Denise was on and that she had actually called. And so I picked up the phone, just coming out of sleep, and I called and said, hey, sorry, I fell asleep, blah, blah, blah. And, I guess we're going to cancel tonight. And she said, okay. And so I put down the phone. I went back to sleep. And
Meanwhile,
then,
meanwhile,
me,
people, I was a
meanwhile,
little.
right. So this is like different scenes, right? So there's the first scene. Denise is on phone waiting for us, and then the second scene was I was asleep, knocked out, woke up, called her, and then I thought everything was resolved, right? Because I was tired, and I called and apologized. Flashback to Denise over at her place now. I'm asleep over here, and she's salty. She's like getting all up in her stuff, and so she sent out this text. And we're not going to tell you what the text is. Right. And so she sent out this text. So I read this text and I was like, what is she talking about? And Danita, tell us, because we haven't come to your scene yet. When you saw the text, or did you even know what was going on?
I had no idea. I was shocked. And when I read it, the first thing is I got angry because I didn't understand where it was coming from and why this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in and I texted her. She never responded to me. And then we had
Because she was still over at her place, by the way.
She was still in her place, right?
Yes.
And I was in mine. But then we had a conversation, Sunday that passed. So for my part, all I knew is you guys are supposed to be on. Then I saw these weird texts. Then I got in my feelings because now I'm upset because I'm not understanding why this is being said. And then we had a conversation. That's for my part. That's how it went.
That's how it went. Yeah. So let's kind of give folks a little view into that conversation, just a quick peek. And it took a little doing to get the conversation going because I think I called Denise and I sent her a text. I put it in the little chat. I know, Danita, you reached out, and we didn't hear from Denise almost all day.
Right, because I was.
We don't know where she was. I think she was still kind of feeling a little way. So before we get to the conversation that we had,
right,
Denise, why don't you tell what were you feeling when, like, why did you send those texts? And the text really, it was a just to give people an idea. It was a text, like Danita said, she was upset from it. When I first read it, I was a little salty, and then I had a different reaction, and I'll share that with you in a minute. But when you sent the text, Denise, what was going through your head? What was going through your mind? And what did you feel? I guess let's talk there.
In my head was that I know that Dwayne and Danita had started doing this without me. I mean, a few episodes ago, and then I was pulled into it, which I was happy for. And as you guys looked at, I was a little hesitant to come in, but I was happy to come into it because it starts to open your mind and you get to talk and you talk to your brother and your sister and different things like that. But I've not been around as much as they've been around to talk to each other, but they somehow are able to get in contact with each other when I'm not around. So the one time that I'm available and Danita's not around, nobody's available. People, nobody's available. Nobody.
And by the way, people, when she said nobody, she actually mean Dwayne, right? So because it's only the three of us, right? So I hope y'all are getting that, right? So
Yeah.
so when she say people, is me she's talking about.
Right? So I'm like, well, Hope was. I know they started this together and they pulled me in and I was happy for it. A little hesitant, but I love it. And now I'm available. Danita's not available. And now nobody's available, meaning Dwayne. So I got in my feelings like, well, okay, well, then I'll be a guest speaker then because the two of them are able to connect when I'm not available. And now I'm available and Danita's not. And Dwayne's not available. So I felt a little, like kind of like pushed aside. Like though we've talked about this before, worth. I wasn't worth talking to if my twin, which she is not available.
Okay. So let's pause. Let's put a pin there. And this came out, as we had our conversation. So in that moment, you felt that you weren't valued, that you had made time for what we planned to do.
Right.
And I said that I was going to be there, but here you were sitting waiting, and I wasn't there, and you felt that I didn't value you, didn't value your time, and the plans that we made.
Right.
Okay. Because when I read the text, right, I thought there was a little bit more energy in the text than I thought there should have been. Right? I was like,
very good at texting. And
I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Because you guys who are watching, when somebody sent you a text and it's like, okay, and the text is kind of happy or kind of sad. Yeah. And you could tell, even though they didn't shout in the text, they didn't put all caps, or they didn't say certain words. You could tell it was one of them texts, right? And so I woke up that night, and I read it. I was like, what? And so Danita, you said that you weren't sure what was going on, and why were you angry?
Because of the things that was said in the text.
Mm-hmm.
So she stated that she said she'd be a guest speaker. And I'm like, well, why would you ever be a guest speaker?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened that you just feel like you're going to be a guest speaker when it's something that all three of us are doing?
Right.
Just a little correction. This wasn't started between Dwayne and I. We started this when we went down to visit Dwayne for Valentine's week. And right, it was a weekend.
Right.
We started it there, and it just continued from that point. You just weren't available at that time, and I think it was like 2 or 3 times. So it wasn't something that we started on our own. You were there from the beginning. So with that knowledge, I'm like, what is she talking about, and why is she saying she's gonna be a guest speaker? And it just felt to me like we were forcing you to do something that you didn't want to do, and that triggered me because that we started this together. So now how are we forcing you? And I understand what you're saying, but from my perspective, looking at it the way I just explained it, that's what made me upset, because it was all of us together at the same time. So for you to be a guest speaker, and you explained you felt separate and apart, which in my head you weren't.
Right. Okay. So flash forward now to our conversation, and we had a conversation, and I had an unusual reaction after I got over looking at the text. I was excited, to be honest with you guys. So when I talked to Denise and Nita, I was like geeked. I was full of energy. I was like, yes, this is so cool, right? And they thought I was crazy. And I thought it was so cool because it gave us a unique opportunity for the three of us to work through a problem together. Right? Now, Denise has been mad at me. Danita's been mad at me. I've been mad at them. And I'm going to tell you guys, and you're not going to believe this. I have never said to Denise and Danita that I'm mad at you. Ever in our lives.
And
they have never said to me
absolutely
that I'm mad at you. Ever.
Well, we said to each other, "Are you mad at you?"
Right. So there it is. Right. So once again, we're talking about into the woods, right? In understanding ideas, understanding our minds. So I was like, man, yes. So when I saw the text, I said, okay, good, right? Because I couldn't wait to get on the conversation with them, right? Yeah, I know I'm weird, but that's okay. So we did have the conversation, and as you heard, Denise explained her idea and how she felt, and Danita explained how she felt. And I mean, I apologized, right? So, hey, this was not meant to negate your feelings. I understand how you're feeling. I get what you're feeling, and I'm not negating that. I apologize for not being where I said I was going to be. Okay. And we had a conversation and we talked through that. So with that as a backdrop, let's talk now about this whole idea of conflict. So any one of you, go ahead and define what is conflict? What is a conflict?
A conflict is needing something from someone else that you have not received yet, and you're upset about it.
Okay. All right. So where one person needs something from, well, has a need, right? That they are expecting from the other. Let me say that. So they have a need. They're expecting that need to be fulfilled from someone else, and it's not being fulfilled. And so there is this quote unquote conflict between the two of them. And this can happen in any areas, right? So it can happen on the job. It can happen between, let me say family of origin, right? So we are family of origin. We are the foo, the wood foo. So it can happen between husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, mom, dad, just anywhere where there's a need that's being, or an expected need, but it's not being met. And so people kind of get sideways, as it were. Where, if ever, did you guys learn to deal with conflict or how to resolve a conflict? Or did well, let me just leave it at that question.
Okay.
I don't know. I think we had like a brief conversation on it. I don't think, and Denise mentioned it, I don't think we learned how to deal with conflict.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if there's I get upset and I get quiet. I get upset and I get quiet. And then when it's just reached a point, then I just get nasty.
Right.
Then I say what I have to say and then I cut you off. That's
Okay.
how I feel with conflict. So
I think
it's not a healthy way of doing it.
Yes.
Maybe the question should be, have we learned a healthy way of dealing with conflict, and where have we learned that, right? That would be right here, right now.
Right here, right now. So Danita, you're saying right here, right now, this is it.
because there really has never been a conversation of what it is,
Right.
And what you're really needing from someone or expecting. I mean, we speak about expectations all the time, right? But we never use it in the context of a conflict, right? Expectations cause the conflict, but we never looked at it in that way. So so right now it's something that you want. It's expectation that you want from someone and you haven't received it yet. How do you go about getting it? I mean, that's the question. Healthy way of going about
getting
it. But also, when you have a conflict, and sometimes we always talk about perception, how people perceive things, is the person going to understand why you feel the way you feel without you feeling unjustified for having that feeling? Does that make sense? So if I feel a type of way, as I did last week, if we're using that as an example, somehow, some way, I slightly thought Dwayne understood, but Danita didn't feel that she made me feel that way. So she couldn't understand where I was coming from.
Right.
So at some part, I felt, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have that feeling. But I do have that feeling.
Wow.
Right? It is my feeling, and it's my right to feel that feeling. Am I able to articulate how I'm feeling without feeling unjustified for having that feeling? So when the conflict happens, people might not feel as though they're doing it intentionally, but when it's presented, am I able to articulate to you so that you don't feel as though, well, I'm attacking you, but just
Right.
letting you know how I felt? Not that you meant to do it, but that's how I feel. And I should be able to feel that way if I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can talk through it so that it doesn't happen again. And you understand, and I understand that you understand where I'm coming from, and, vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm making some notes here because we're gonna come back to some of that. So back to this learning how to deal with conflict. I'm thinking back to growing up in our family, and as everybody know, there are six of us, right? And we had cousins that were around.
Hmm.
So one, two, three, four. As and his brothers and sisters, our sister, and then Eugene and them that were around.
Yes.
And I don't know that I ever saw any of our parents, like our parents or our aunts and uncles who were around, really kind of walk through a conflict that we were aware of. Like, right. So I mean, they may have been doing their thing, and they basically dealt with it in their own way. But I don't know that I ever saw someone or watch a conflict start, see
Right.
them have a conversation about it without yelling, by the way, and then see the resolution of that conflict.
Right.
No, we never saw it.
No, we never saw
Hmm.
it.
We don't
So
know
we
what that looks like.
no. So it's usually what we saw. If you
Hmm.
guys can interject, what we saw, there was a conflict. Everybody yelled and screamed. We sat and watched it. It might have been funny sometimes, right? But there
Right.
was never a resolution to it, right?
Right. Right.
This person felt this way. This body felt this way. That person felt this way. And then somehow, some way, they agreed to disagree. Everybody had their views, and that was it.
Right. Wow. When I think about when I think of conflict, and I'll tell you, I'll give you my experience for my entire, well, not entire, for a lot of my life.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I dreaded conflict,
Right.
and when I say dreaded conflict in my personal life, now my conflict outside of my personal life, like at work or school or whatever. I mean, I was good at dealing with that stuff, right? Because there wasn't a, I don't want to say there wasn't a personal touch, but I didn't have to go home with those people, right?
Right.
So they were at the job, and I dealt with them, and we had to work with each other anyway, right? So I said, not that I was explosive and that kind of stuff, but I dealt with that. But in my personal life, I avoided conflict. I thought conflict was evil, right? I thought that was bad. She would not have conflict, and that idea caused a lot of trouble, right?
Well, yeah, because you're
Because
not expressing yourself.
yeah, right, not expressing yourself, and then you begin doing some of the bad behavior in terms of avoiding and denial and all that kind of stuff. Okay, all right. So that's conflict, and I think, and you guys correct me, I think that we all, right, and everybody who's watching, if you have young people in your life, you need to begin showing them how to manage conflict. Right? I mean, that requires that we first learn, but I think it's a skill that is so needed, and it affects so many different parts of our lives,
Right.
that if we're not good at it, we end up suffering a lot of hurt, and a lot of life stresses if we're not dealing with it. So I think that's one thing. What do you guys think about that?
I agree with you. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, I agree with you. Sometimes not. I know, not last week as an example, but I don't necessarily like conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come to me with an issue, I'm more than willing to talk about it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like to present it, but if you come to me with it, it gives me permission to be able to tell you how I feel. But going forward,
Mm-hmm.
does everybody know how to deal with that without feeling guilty that they've
Mm.
said something?
Right.
That's the issue. So,
Right.
as you say, how do we teach children these days,
Mm-hmm.
or young people these days, how to deal with it? Because sometimes, even though it's brought to you and somehow, some way, there's permission to tell, some people just don't. They
Mm-hmm.
just hold it because they don't want to hurt someone's feeling, or maybe they don't have the right words to articulate it, and so therefore they just sit with it, and then they internalize it, and then it becomes a different problem,
Right.
more than what it should be.
More than what it should be. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think like she's well, part of what she's saying, communication is key. Your
Right.
delivery is key. You
Right.
can't just show up to someone or someone shows up to you, they have a problem, and you just open your mouth and regurgitate all kinds of stuff on them. You have to know who you're speaking to. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times people don't. They just feel like they want to say whatever it is they want to say,
Mhm.
and the person is supposed to accept it because that's them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I mean, you if you want to deal with conflict correctly, you have to deliver it correctly. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody is not the same. I could say stuff to Denise that I can't say to Dwayne in the same way, and vice. It goes straight across the board. So
Right.
you think one of the things you also have to look at is your delivery
Right.
with the conflict, because what
Everybody else
you
language.
want the person to hear you.
Right.
But if you have already put them on the defense,
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Yeah.
They're not listening to you, and then it just continues. Nothing happens. You just said what you said. They didn't receive
Right.
it because
Mhm.
they feel attacked,
Mm-hmm.
and it just
Exactly.
continues. You haven't solved anything. But then people go and say, "I told them so." You
Right.
told me in what?
People talk about love language and different things. Everybody has a language.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a way of accepting and hearing how someone's going to present anything to them. And as
Mm-hmm.
Danita said, I could say things to Danita that I might not be able to say to Dwayne. It's the same thing. How I
But just
present it
differently.
is different,
Right.
right? But the information is the same. And
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes people don't take the time to understand who it is that they're dealing with. And so
Right.
if I speak to Danita the same way, well, I'll be able to speak to Dwayne. But Dwayne can't hear me. Danita can't, but Dwayne can't.
Mm-hmm.
So within that conflict, you also have to, you know, be mindful of how certain people accept what you say and how you say it.
Right. Now, as you get into a conflict, and let's go back to our example from our situation. So, Denise, when you when we had the conversation on Sunday and we talked,
Mm-hmm.
and I said to you, "Well, I'm excited about this."
Right.
What did you think?
I'm like, oh, well, Dwayne's crazy. He's excited about me feeling the way I'm feeling. Um, but I didn't feel as though I wasn't unjustified. I felt as though you heard me,
Right.
right? I wasn't oh well, Denise, you shouldn't feel like that because
Right.
you heard me. You're excited. You want to work through it. You want to make it better. So,
Right.
I mean, I didn't take it as well. I did.
Yeah, no, he's crazy, right?
I'm
Well,
like,
and
you
the reason I
crazy.
asked that, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, he's crazy, but I know he heard me
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. Now, if it became a argumentative situation, then you didn't hear me because I
Right.
wasn't doing it to be argumentative. I was doing it because I felt hurt,
Right. Now,
and
the
so
reason I asked that, and the reason I thought, right, was that I did not see the conflict
Mhm.
as a war.
Right.
Let me say it again. So the word conflict conjures up in people's mind, and in my mind before, this contentious, well, let's just say, because sometimes it can be contentious, but like we're on opposite sides, and really, as we're working to a resolution, we are actually partners. We are actually on the same side,
Yes.
trying to find the best solution for us. And if we approach it that way, right, then it's simpler, maybe a little bit more palatable to have conversations where there could be some feelings involved, but I know that I am not at an enemy, or you're not my enemy, that we're working for a common solution, and a win-win, if you will.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So these feelings, right? A lot of times when people are having these feelings, they have one of three reactions. They fight, right? So there's a conflict. So we come on. Like, I know people who, that's their thing. You want to have a conflict, let's go for it. Right? They are scrappers, right? They're those folks. They either fight or they flee, right? Fight or flight, right? Or they freeze.
Right.
So there are people who they're in for it for the fight, and they may not even totally be tied to the position that they have, but you came to them.
Right.
And you put them on the defensive, and once they're on the defensive, it's all everything is game, right? So that's one thing. Or
Right.
people who just want to avoid everything, and so they're running. They're every way they can go, they can get out. They change the conversation. Hey, let's just leave. Let's leave this alone. Just do what you want.
Right.
Or they freeze and they don't know what to do. They're just kind of stuck. So let's walk through a couple of things. I think that will help. Right. So how do we deal with the conflicts? Number one, and you guys have already said it, and
Right.
Denise, you articulated it well. Express the need, right? Because we said a conflict is where one person has a need that they're expecting another person to fulfill, and that other person is not fulfilling it. So Denise, you said, talk about it. Okay, get it out there so that everybody knows what the need is.
You're right.
Okay, so that's one. And so in our case, the need was for me to be on the for me to be on the thing,
Yeah. Right.
right? So you
I
express
just
the need.
want to interject. It's gonna be funny, but
Yeah.
that's who I am. But I was about to fly. I was on flight mode, but I left the back door where I could come in because I was going to be a guest. Let's be clear.
I like it.
Let's be, whatever.
Right.
I pondered. I was mad. People, I was mad. Let's be clear. I was mad. I was like, I like talking to these folks. It's cool talking to them, but they made me mad. So I'm going to leave. But I'm going to leave a back door. And I made my text. I made it, people, and I sent it. But I left the back door for y'all. So there you go.
And I love that. I love that because it says a couple of things, right? There are times when people are in a particular mode, fight, flight, or freeze.
Excuse me, guys.
And they don't really know what to do, but they're not ready to dissolve the relationship, right? But because they like where they are, they like the relationship, they like whatever they're doing, but they just don't know how to deal with this conflict.
Right.
And so that's a beautiful illustration for what you just described, Denise. Good. Okay, so express the need, and then the question is, can the need be solved? Or can the person that you're looking at, can that person, and we won't talk about whether you should look somewhere else yet, but can that person fulfill the need?
Right.
I want you guys to talk a little bit about that.
Well, if they hear you, right, and they're willing to accommodate the need that you have, then yeah, you can get it from that person. But if they don't hear you, you're not getting anything.
Well, suppose they, and Denise, you said you felt heard, right? Suppose you were explaining, but we weren't hearing.
Well, she said that about me.
Oh,
She said
okay.
she was explaining, but I wasn't hearing, which wasn't true. I was trying to understand because from my
Right.
perspective, not that I didn't hear her or didn't understand how she felt, because she and I had an issue a while back. And the way that was handled, I didn't feel I was heard. Right? So I heard her, but I was trying to understand why, because we made sure that we took all these steps and to include and make sure everyone knew we didn't exclude her. So I was trying to understand, not that her feelings weren't valid. They were very valid, but I was just confused as to, but why are you pulling out? that's the part
Well,
that confused me.
Right.
truthfully, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was Dwayne. He kind of like
Okay.
dropped the ball. And I know you felt, I know, but when I felt like you didn't feel hurt, I understood at the time that it wasn't necessarily. And guys, Dwayne's a cool dude, though. So we're talking about conflict. He's cool. He's usually on point. But last week he kind of like he wasn't there. So Danita made it a point to touch all the bases and different things like that. So when you were saying that you didn't understand, I kind of understood why you didn't understand, because it wasn't necessarily that you dropped the ball,
Okay.
right? It was, don't pull the mic slowly. It was kind of Dwayne dropped the ball.
Yeah, I'm just getting the mic close to my mouth so I can say some stuff.
Right. And so I can honor the fact that he was able to say, I dropped the ball, right? And yeah, at one point when you were saying, well, I don't understand why you did, yeah, I was a little upset. But at the end of the day, it wasn't necessarily that you dropped the ball, right? I felt a little kind of way because Dwayne was not available. So maybe I should not pull it in and just made it a thing with Dwayne, right? But we were able to talk through it, and which was kind of, I'm gonna sound weird. I was happy for it. Dwayne was happy for the conflict, whatever. We could talk about it, and it kind of opens the door for us to be able to be honest with each other, as opposed to putting everybody sugarcoating to
Right.
sugarcoat, right?
Right.
We all have our flaws. Dania has hers, Dwayne has his, I have mine, and whatever. And so therefore we were able to present it that way, albeit
Right.
it was clumped up into this one threesome. But it was a Denise and Dwayne thing. It wasn't necessarily Denise, Danita and Dwayne thing. It was a Denise and Dwayne thing. So I'm gonna say sorry, Danita, for pulling you in. This is Denise and Dwayne thing.
So that's a great point. Going back to our first thing, express the need, right? So the question is, who do you express the need to? Because just like you said, it was between the two of us, but we pulled Danita into it, right? And so maybe it got a little bit wider than maybe it should have. And sometimes we do that because and not necessarily intentionally, but in this case, so we have this thread that we do, this chat that we have, and so you just put it in there, not necessarily thinking, okay, well, I just need to talk to Dwayne.
Right.
And so Danita saw it, and now, she got pulled into it. So I guess a point to be made there is express the need, but you got to express the need to the right person.
Right, exactly.
Like if I need something from Charmaine, I can't be telling you about my need because you're not the one that's fulfilling that. I got to talk, I got to go talk to my wife and say, hey, I need this from you. So good. I like that. Right. So look at Denise, you're bringing all these good points in there. Okay. So if the need can be met, then the conflict is done, right? If you said it to the person said, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I got that. Then the need is done, right? But if you express it to the person, sorry?
You might think.
Okay. Tell me about that then.
because it might be something that's more ingrained, but it just presented itself here.
Ah.
Not no, I'm not saying it's more ingrained.
Well, yeah,
I'm just
I have some questions offline, by the way.
right. Oh,
Some questions offline that we gonna talk about. Yeah, so
okay. I'm sorry. I
yeah,
didn't see. I'm sorry. I didn't see. Sorry, guys. I didn't see it.
but we
But
go, yeah, we're gonna talk about that later.
right.
But you're right. I mean, but let's assume though that this is genuinely the conflict. But you are correct that sometimes the conflict you're having is really not over that thing. The conflict you're having showed up in that thing, but it's about something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But let's assume that it is about this thing and you've expressed a need and the person that you've expressed it to says, sure, I can do that. Then the conflict at that point is over. Suppose you do express the need and the person cannot or is unwilling to meet that need. What do you do then?
I've not
Deuces.
worked out that part.
Like we gotta go because I can't. If I'm expressing something to you, if I'm expressing something to you and you're not willing to
Mm-hmm.
accommodate it, then what else? What are we? What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm gonna continuously feel a kind of way, and
Right.
you're aware of it at this point, and
Right.
you have consciously decided to say, "I'm not dealing with you with that."
Mm-hmm.
And so then I have to say the same thing. I'm not dealing with you. And you
Right.
have to go about your business because it'll just be a constant battle back and forth.
Right.
But remember, I left the back door. So what if, even though, right, they're
Mm-hmm.
not meeting your need,
Mhm.
are you ready to take that walk? Some people are not.
Mm.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna walk now, everybody's the decision within yourself, you already know at some point you have to go. Whether or
Mhm.
not you're ready, that's a whole different topic. But you
Right.
know if this person is not willing to meet you where you need them to meet you at, then it's not going to work. So you're
Right.
always gonna have some reservation with this person. Now you can't even just be open. You can't be vulnerable with this person because there's this one thing that's just blocking everything else because you need it. They
Right.
know you need it and they already said no.
Right.
What do you do?
Huh.
You know you can't stay.
So I saw an interesting. I'm not sure what's going on with my lights back there. I saw an interesting illustration recently, and maybe this is maybe even under the previous number. Hold on a second, guys.
Sure.
It's okay. The lights are fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think
throwing
Blake
you
is
off?
out there playing around with this switch though.
Oh.
So anyway, so I saw a great illustration. So there's these three people, and they're fighting over a pumpkin,
Okay.
right? And there's only one pumpkin, and all three of them want the pumpkin,
Right.
and so they cannot agree, right? Because they don't want to cut it. They don't, there's like I need the whole pumpkin. And the person that was kind of talking with them with the illustration said, "Well, what do you want the pumpkin for?"
Right.
And the first person said, "Well, Halloween is coming up, and I want to make one of those Jack
Jack-o'-lanterns?
lantern." Okay.
Mhm.
And they said for the other guy, well, "Hey, what do you want the pumpkin for?" He said, "Well, my family loves soup, so I'll make some soup." And it said to the third person, "What do you want?" "Well, hey, I'm going to plant a garden,
Okay.
and so I need the pumpkin for the garden."
Right.
And so, in that situation, they cut the top of the pumpkin. They took out the seeds. They gave it to one person.
Yeah.
They scooped out the meat.
Mm-hmm.
They
The
gave it to
soup?
another person for the soup,
And the other person had Jack o' lantern.
and the other person had a jack o' lantern, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And the illustration that the person was giving there was that everybody, all three of them, thought that they needed the pumpkin.
Right.
Right.
They needed the
needed
thing,
this. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
but sometimes if we're not careful,
Mhm.
we will not understand the motive behind what somebody wants. So
Right.
so they may not want the pumpkin. They just want the seeds for the pumpkin.
Right.
Okay. And along with this thing about not being able to meet the need or to want to do the need, I think we've got to be careful sometimes that we don't throw the baby away with the bathwater, as they say, and really make sure that the need that and this takes both of us. This takes both people having
Understanding.
having a real conversation and hearing, like Denise said, and understanding, like Danita said, what is it that we want? What is it that we are after? If it's not the pumpkin and it's just the seeds, well, let's take the seeds. Right? Hey, sorry, I can't give you the pumpkin, but I can give you the seeds. And understanding that. Okay. Because if we don't do that, then people start doing all those things that we talk about, right? Sulking and get silent and shouting and screaming and gossiping and all that kind of stuff.
Most people would just leave the pumpkin. Everybody would just leave the pumpkin and
But
walk
they will
away.
but they will leave a black back door though.
They will leave
Oh,
that.
You like I like that. Because, okay,
Back
sorry.
door. 'Cause they will buy the seeds, but they won't give you the pumpkin.
They won't give you the pumpkin. Right? They won't give you the pumpkin. Okay. All right. So here are here are some questions that I saw recently that we should ask. Okay, and we'll run through them real quickly. So number one, what do you need? Okay, makes sense. What do you need? So understanding for real, and that's this whole idea of the pumpkin, right? Do you need the seeds? Do you need the meat? Do you need the shell? What is the real need? And then what do I need?
Right.
Right. So you need the seeds. I need the shell. Perfect. We've got it. Not an issue. But if we both think, hey, we got to have the whole pumpkin, then it's a big deal.
Right.
And then here's an interesting one, right? Let's suppose we do need this. You want the seeds, and I want the seeds. What if I give you the seeds?
Okay.
Let's put a
Thank
pin
you.
right there. Let's talk about that one.
I think you're so generous. I appreciate the seeds.
Right. But
I'm gonna
Danita,
plant some pumpkins, and next year I'll give you some seeds.
you give me. but Danita, you asked an interesting question earlier. You said, okay, so if I give you the seeds and you don't give me, right? So I said, what do you want? What do you need? And what do I need? And you give me what I need, or I give you what you need and you don't give me what I need, right? You asked, well, what about that? Explain to me what that question was about.
Well, I mean, people tend to give of themselves, right? They give what they think the other person needs, and it's not reciprocated, right? So they're just sitting there like, okay, I'm just giving and doing like I'm the big idiot, right? I'm just giving it, and nothing. I empty. Now I'm
Right.
empty. I don't have no more to give. There's nobody giving back into me. Like, what do you do in that instance? So is that a mindset change? Would that be at some point the person would, because they getting what they need, then they would just be so happy to give you what you need? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
What do you think, Denise?
Well, if the other person is verbalizing what they need and you're giving them what they need, are you verbalizing what you need? I mean, is the person thinking that you're happy with just giving? What is it that you need? Let me know what you do need so I'm able to give it to you. I'm not trying to take all that you give and not give back. But if I don't know what to give you, and if you're vague in it, then I don't know what to give you.
Right.
Thank you for
Well,
giving
suppose you do. Suppose I'm clear and you understand.
right.
Clearly.
Then I guess they just don't care to give you what you need.
Mm-hmm.
In that instance, you have to make a decision. It might not you probably can't leave the back door then, because you have to be able to, all right, if they're not giving me what I need, do I look within myself to give me what I need? But if it is, and if we're talking about relationships, you come together to build and do different things. If they're not there to help me build upon who I am, and I have to rely on myself, well, do I just
What's
let
the
them go?
point?
What's
Right.
the point?
Okay.
What's the point in
I-
having
Is
them?
is this a place where, for instance, if we're having, and there are so many different thoughts and ideas about this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If is this a place where we get someone else to come in to help us have a conversation?
Might be.
It might
Maybe
be.
that needs to happen, because a lot of times if you have a third party, it's kind of easier to have that person, and it's just easier seems to talk to somebody else than to talk to your partner sometimes,
Right.
until you learn how to
Mm-hmm.
do so, right?
Okay.
Maybe you could go to counseling. Now if
Maybe.
the counseling don't work, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, after that,
Sometimes the language that you speak is different, right? I know
Right.
I could tell Dania, look, da, 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 and I might be able to say blah, 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 blah. And she understands me totally. I
Mm-hmm.
know she gets it. I'm not sure that I'd be able to do that with you, but she understands, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the language that you're speaking about what you need is not as much as you think it's clear. It might not be clear. You can tell me you could think that you're saying it to me as plain as day. But
Mm-hmm.
my blah 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 is clear to Danita. But my blah 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 is not clear to Dwayne.
Yeah, but like, what are you talking about?
you're like, what?
Exactly.
Okay.
No, blah 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 is blah blah blah, right, Danita?
Yep.
So therefore, right,
Okay.
some way, you have to understand or try to understand the person that you're dealing with. And again,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if it is that you can't get that connection, maybe yeah, you might need someone else that be is able to hear both languages that you're speaking to make that connection for you.
Right. Right. And and then I guess here's another question is the need or the thing that I want from this person, this expressed need, are they the ones that should be supplying that need to me?
Sometimes not.
Yeah.
What does that
Sometimes not.
mean?
Sometimes you need to come with you what you need. You should be
Well,
sometimes
yeah.
self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient. Well, we've been talking about mindset, right? So this whole idea of mindset and so forth. And it's a big thing. Being content in who you are, finding value in yourself, and all those things that we've talked about. If you've not already done so, go back and watch that video. Finding your worth, right? Quieting the noise, finding your own worth is a very good one. And so I think that plays in right here. So you have to know your value and have to know your worth and have to know who you are, so that when you're in the conflict, that you know where your point is. Where is the place where you have to say, hey, I don't know that this is the right thing for me, and be willing to walk away, move away. Okay. Now, as we're talking about, we can go into lots of different relationships as we talk about marriage. Then, my belief is that you work that out. You find whoever it is and you work with it and you deal with it. Ultimately, though, in any relationship, there's a point. And I'm going to say, yeah, I know some of you are going to disagree with me. In any relationship, though, there's a point at which you have to say, no, this is not where I need to be. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving you guys permission to go home and, if you're watching divorce and all that stuff. But I've got to say, even if you're in a marriage and there are things that you need and things that you want and things that are even quote unquote detrimental, then you've got to say, hey, where's that line? Okay. And there's got to be a lot of talking and prayer and all that stuff. Okay. All right. So ultimately, let me get off of that. So we've kind of walked through that whole thing. Okay, is this the person? If this the place, is this the person that's going to provide that for us? Let me pause right there and say for you guys, if you've not already done so, please make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you give us a thumbs up on this show. If you've had some conflict, right? If you've had some issues, and let us know how you deal with it, how you dealt with it, right? And you don't have to give us specifics, but just just write in the comments, send us an email so that we know, that you're out there and how you have dealt with those conflicts before. And we'll give you a call to action here in a minute. I mean, I don't know. One of the twins is going to do that for us. So I'm going to let you guys decide which one of you. Any kind of overriding thought that you guys have about this topic that you want to share with everybody?
I would say, as Dwayne did say, sometimes, in all our lives, whether you're young, you're old, in between, sometimes you feel you don't have permission to say how you feel, because more times than not, you're not wanting to have to hurt somebody else's feelings. But in not telling them how you feel, you stifle who you are. And so it becomes difficult now for you to be a true, authentic self, because people don't really know how you feel. So, I mean, that's how I feel about this conversation. I thank Dwayne for bringing it forward. But to be a true, authentic self, not to say that you have to be nasty in how you present what you're going to present, but tell people how you feel, and just let them hear it. If you have to explain it, you explain it, but at least open the door. You leave a back door too, but open the door so that that conversation could be had, so that you will be able to feel free to have that with them.
And that's a great place for a call to action. Find out what you need. It's very important.
Right. Find out what you need. And this is a great place. I think, Danita, we had a couple of conversations when you were here, and I kept asking you the question, what do you really want? I don't know if you remember us having those conversations. And so what do you really want? So remember, guys, as we're talking about conflict, right? And how do we manage conflict? So a conflict is any time when one person has a need of another that's not being met. Okay, that's what the definition of a conflict is. And as we go about dealing with how to manage the conflict, number one, express the need. Number two, ask the question, can the need be met? If it can, then the conflict has been resolved. Number three, sometimes we get into these different buffering, right? We sulk, we become silent, we shout, we get angry, we begin gossiping, but we may need some additional help from someone else to come in to help mediate. And then ultimately, the question that we have to ask is this a valid need that this person can meet? Right? We've got to ask that question. And then we've got to be willing, if needed, to move away from that situation.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again. Glad that you are here. This is Into the Woods, and we are happy that you took time to watch this episode with us. Be sure to like and subscribe, comment put a message in the comment section, and come on back to watch us as we talk about other things so that we can all come out of the woods. This is Dwayne.
This is Denise.
And Danita. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.